In the quiet plains of North America, farmers plowing their fields began to notice something strange. Beneath the soil, their plows scraped against massive stones carved with patterns that didn't match any known tribe or civilization. Archaeologists were called, and soon the entire valley turned into a dig site. What they found shocked the scientific world. Fragments of a city buried more than 10,000 years ago. The walls were lined with inscriptions, showing people holding tools made of crystal and energy sources far beyond primitive understanding. "This can't be real," whispered Professor Allen, one of the leading archaeologists. Yet carbon dating revealed the impossible. It was older than any known human structure on Earth. As more layers were removed, they uncovered tall pillars that shimmered when light touched them, as if powered by some dormant energy. Deep underground, they found circular chambers filled with symbols that seemed to depict a map not of Earth, but of the stars. Some symbols matched constellations visible only in the southern hemisphere, far from where they stood. Rumors began spreading. Was this the lost civilization of Atlantis, or something even older? Night after night, strange sounds echoed from the excavation pit. Instruments malfunctioned, compasses spun wildly, and those who stayed too long beneath the surface reported hearing whispers, faint voices calling their names. The government soon stepped in. The site was sealed, and the official explanation was a geological anomaly. But those who had seen it knew. It was no mere rock formation. Something ancient was buried there. Something that didn't want to be disturbed.
Weeks later, a secret team of linguists and scientists continued studying the inscriptions in a hidden facility. One name appeared again and again: Orin. It seemed to refer to both a city and a god. The symbols weren't random. They followed mathematical patterns. When translated, they revealed a warning. The sky burned. The waters rose. We hid the light beneath the ground. Dr. Sarah Liu, an expert in ancient languages, noticed that the carvings glowed when touched. It was as if the stones remembered. The team used 3D scanners, and the data formed a structure in digital space, a perfect map of an underground metropolis. One night, Sarah received an encrypted message from an unknown source. "You are not the first to find Orin. Others tried. They vanished." When she confronted her superiors, they denied sending it. But soon after, 2 members of the team disappeared. Their rooms were empty, computers wiped. The government shut down communication, and everyone signed new secrecy contracts. Sarah began to dream of tall towers under the sea, of voices whispering in languages no one spoke anymore. The deeper she looked, the more she realized this civilization had power over sound and frequency, something that could alter matter itself. Years passed. The discovery was erased from public record, and all mentions of the Orin site vanished. But among certain circles, researchers, historians, and secret societies, the name persisted. In New York,
A journalist named Ethan Cole stumbled upon Sarah's old notes. The handwriting was shaky, as if written in fear. He started investigating, tracing her last known movements. Every lead led to silence. Witnesses refused to talk, and those who did mentioned the same thing. They heard the whispers before they disappeared. Ethan started hearing them too. Late at night, his radio would turn on by itself. Static formed words. In a remote desert laboratory, scientists continued their work under the name Project Deep Echo. Using ultra-low frequency machines, they sent sound waves into the earth to map what lay beneath. The results shocked them. They found massive hollow spaces, some perfectly circular, aligned with star constellations. Then came the breakthrough. A pulse came back. The Earth answered. The machines recorded a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. One of the scientists, Dr. Rahim, whispered, "It's not the Earth that's alive. It's something inside it." When they increased the signal strength, all power in the facility went out. Lights flickered, alarms blared. From the speakers came a low voice, deep, ancient, and almost human. "You have remembered us. Do not wake the others."
Decades later, satellite scans revealed unnatural geometric patterns beneath several continents. The same symbol of Orion appeared in Africa, Asia, and South America, as if the entire world had once been linked by this forgotten empire. A new generation of explorers began piecing the truth together. Humanity wasn't the first civilization. It was just the latest one. Those before us had mastered sound, energy, and memory far beyond our understanding. When they fell, they buried their knowledge deep within the planet, leaving warnings for those who would come later. And now, we are starting to dig again. Somewhere, under the ground, the whisper returns. We never left. We only slept.
Before Columbus crossed the Atlantic, before the first ships touched the shores of the New World, and long before any mapmaker dared to draw the outline of America, there were cities, voices, and lights that burned in the darkness. They were not myths, they were civilizations. Civilizations that lived, traded, and vanished long before history officially began. For generations, we were told that America's story started in 1492. But the ground says otherwise. And if we listen closely, we can still hear them, the shadow civilizations that time refused to remember. In a quiet library in Lisbon, Portugal, a young historian named Dr. Marcus LeBlanc uncovered a forgotten parchment in the spring of 2021. It was catalogued simply as Atlantic Survey 1428. But what caught his attention wasn't the handwriting. It was what the map showed. The coastlines of North and South America, drawn decades before Columbus ever set sail. And near the Great Lakes, a symbol that looked disturbingly like a pyramid. The ink had faded, the parchment brittle, but the implications were explosive. Who drew this map? How could anyone have charted the American interior before Europeans even discovered it? LeBlanc's search led him to the American Midwest, to a remote valley in Ohio, where locals still spoke of the White Stone people. According to Shawnee oral tradition, they were builders who came from the sunrise, carrying knowledge and fire. They erected great mounds, carved rivers into perfect symmetry, then disappeared into the forests. When LeBlanc arrived, he met Leah Greyhawk, an Native American anthropologist who had spent years documenting the stories of her ancestors. She told him something that the textbooks never did. They weren't gods, she said softly. They were people, flesh and blood, and they were here long before Columbus ever dreamed of sailing west. Together, LeBlanc and Greyhawk traveled to the Serpent Mound, an ancient earthwork coiled across the Ohio hills. To the untrained eye, it was just a mound of soil, but satellite imaging revealed something astonishing. The serpent's coils aligned perfectly with solar and lunar eclipses. More than that, buried within one of its segments were resonant quartz stones, which amplified sound frequencies. When wind passed through certain cavities, the mound actually sang. Was this a coincidence? Or did the builders engineer the earth itself to speak, to send messages through vibration? This is how my ancestors listened to the earth. They didn't write books. They wrote in sound and stone. When the pair presented their findings at a symposium in Boston, the reaction was immediate and brutal. Pseudo-history, some called it. Fantasy, said others. But deep down, a few scholars whispered their support. They had seen things too. Artifacts that didn't belong in any known timeline. Tools of metallurgy, thousands of years before such techniques were thought to exist. LeBlanc realized something profound. The greatest threat to history is not ignorance, it's fear. Fear of rewriting everything we've been taught. Fear of seeing the past as something far greater than we can control. In 2022, satellite LiDAR scans over the Appalachian Mountains revealed the faint outline of a massive ancient road system. Paths carved straight through forest and stone, connecting river valleys from Alabama to Pennsylvania. Carbon testing showed they were more than 7,000 years old. These weren't animal trails, they were highways. Along them, archaeologists began finding obsidian tools identical to those in Asera. And near one riverbank, they uncovered a buried canoe made of tree resin, a technology thought impossible before the Bronze Age. Whoever these people were, they traveled, they traded, and they thrived. A forgotten diary, recovered from the archives of the Spanish crown, mentions an encounter in 1514 with pale men of golden armor in the forests of what is now Tennessee. They spoke an unfamiliar tongue, but carried relics of unmistakable craftsmanship. Some believe they were the last descendants of the shadow civilizations, remnants who survived in isolation after cataclysm and disease. Greyhawk's interpretation was different. She said, they didn't vanish, they blended. Their blood runs in ours. Their memories became our stories.
Following a lead from Greyhawk's tribal records, they discovered a cave system beneath the Ozark Mountains. Its walls were covered in carvings that glowed under UV light,
a prehistoric form of luminescent paint made from crushed minerals. The paintings told a story of a great migration, a flood, and a sky fire that tore the heavens. And in one panel, figures stood beneath a giant spiral descending from the clouds. It looked eerily similar to ancient depictions of comets, or something else entirely. Asera, it seemed, was only one chapter of a story that spanned an entire continent. Shortly after publishing their findings online, LeBlanc's website was taken down without explanation. Funding for his next expedition disappeared overnight. Two men claiming to be from the Department of Interior Survey visited Greyhawk's research center and confiscated her samples. They said it was for safety reasons. But within months, she began receiving encrypted emails, images of other ruins hidden under military zones in Arizona and Nevada. Each site bore the same spiral symbol found in Asera and the Ozarks. Someone, somewhere, knew more than they were saying. LeBlanc compiled every known native legend describing builders from the dawn time, from the Hopi's ant people to the Cherokee's moon-eyed ones. Different tribes, different languages, yet the same story repeated again and again. A great people came, taught them how to build, then vanished underground. Were they simply ancestors, or could they have been something more? The idea wasn't alien contact, it was human continuity. A chain of civilizations so old they slipped from memory, and myth became their grave. In 2023, a flash flood near the Missouri River exposed something shocking. A mile-long stretch of glassy black material embedded in the clay. Melted silica fused with metallic traces. Scientists said it could only have formed at extreme heat, far beyond anything a forest fire could produce. Greyhawk called it the burn line. Her theory? A catastrophic meteor strike, or perhaps a self-inflicted disaster that ended the shadow civilizations. The flood, the sky fire, the silence, the same cycle that every lost culture seems to repeat. Through pattern analysis, researchers discovered that the spiral symbol in every site wasn't just decoration. It mapped the motion of the North Star over 10,000 years. A calendar, a compass, and perhaps a warning. Every civilization that used it had fallen during a shift in the Earth's magnetic field. They knew something we've forgotten, LeBlanc said. They understood time as a living force, not a line, but a circle. What happened to them may one day happen to us. In autumn 2024, Greyhawk and LeBlanc returned to the Ozarks Cave for one final expedition. Using ground-penetrating sonar, they discovered a sealed chamber deeper than any before. Inside lay a stone sarcophagus, its lid marked with a familiar phrase, "We listened to the earth, and the earth answered." But there was something else. At the center of the chamber stood a tall, quartz-like column, pulsing faintly with energy. When their instruments drew near, the readings spiked, a low-frequency hum matching the same earth tone detected in Asera years earlier. It was as if the two cities, hundreds of miles apart, were still communicating through the planet itself. Their findings suggested an unthinkable conclusion: that beneath America lies not scattered ruins, but a connected subterranean network of ancient cities, each aligned with celestial markers and energy nodes across the land. A living, breathing circuit built by hands that time erased. When Greyhawk emerged from the final descent, she said quietly to the camera crew, "Maybe they never left. Maybe we just stopped listening." The world above moves forward, building towers, highways, and machines of steel. But the whispers beneath continue. Every earthquake, every tremor deep underground, it might not just be nature. It might be the voices of those who came before, still echoing through the bones of the continent. The shadow civilizations remain nameless, but not forgotten. Their ruins sleep under cities, their songs travel through the stone. And one day, when the earth speaks again, perhaps we'll finally understand what they were trying to tell us.
Through pattern analysis, researchers discovered that the spiral symbol found in every site wasn't just decoration. It mapped the motion of the North Star over 10,000 years, a calendar, a compass, and perhaps a warning. Every civilization that used it had fallen during a shift in the Earth's magnetic field. They knew something we've forgotten, LeBlanc said. They understood time as a living force, not a line, but a circle. What happened to them may one day happen to us. In autumn 2024, Greyhawk and LeBlanc returned to the Ozarks Cave for one final expedition. Using ground-penetrating sonar, they discovered a sealed chamber deeper than any before. Inside lay a stone sarcophagus, its lid marked with a familiar phrase, "We listened to the earth, and the earth answered." But there was something else. At the center of the chamber stood a tall, quartz-like column pulsing faintly with energy. When their instruments drew near, the reading spiked, a low-frequency hum matching the same earth tone detected in Asera years earlier. It was as if the two cities, hundreds of miles apart, were still communicating through the planet itself. Their findings suggested an unthinkable conclusion, that beneath America lies not scattered ruins, but a connected subterranean network of ancient cities, each aligned with celestial markers and energy nodes across the land.
A living, breathing circuit built by hands that time erased. When Greyhawk emerged from the final descent, she said quietly to the camera crew, "Maybe they never left. Maybe we just stopped listening." The world above moves forward, building towers, highways, and machines of steel. But the whispers beneath continue. Every earthquake, every tremor, every hum deep underground, it might not just be nature. It might be the voices of those who came before, still echoing through the bones of the continent. The shadow civilizations remain nameless, but not forgotten. Their ruins sleep under cities, their songs travel through the stone, and one day, when the earth speaks again, perhaps we'll finally understand what they were trying to tell us.
The winds that sweep across the plains of North America carry more than dust. They carry echoes. Whispers of hands that shaped stones before the first European sails cut through the Atlantic. Beneath our feet, the earth remembers cities, languages, and hearts that beat long before Columbus ever dreamed of crossing the ocean. After the discovery of Asera, questions began to multiply. What if Asera was not alone? What if it was only one voice in a chorus of forgotten nations buried under the American landscape? In 2027, Dr. Marcus LeBlanc was called to the Appalachian Mountains. Beneath layers of limestone, his team found symbols identical to those in Assyria, hundreds of miles apart. It wasn't an isolated event, it was a pattern. Someone was building cities across a map that didn't exist yet. The carving spoke of the first builders, masters of the stars, geometry, and magnetic energy. Leah Greyhawk, a Cherokee historian, compared her ancestors' stories with the findings. The ruins' layouts matched ancient Cherokee constellations, reflecting the night sky of 10,000 BCE. She said these weren't myths, they were memories. Satellite scans revealed tunnels connecting Nevada to Tennessee, carved through solid rock. Dr. LeBlanc proposed they weren't primitive, they were engineers of the unseen. The tunnels aligned perfectly with Earth's geomagnetic fields, a power grid built before electricity. When news spread, permits vanished and footage disappeared. An anonymous email warned Leah, "Stop digging. You're uncovering something we were never meant to find." The Smithsonian called it geological coincidence, but silence said otherwise. In the Library of Congress, Leah found a 1799 explorer's map titled Terra Antiqua. It showed North America covered with ancient city marks, lines like constellations. At the bottom, it read, Ante Columbum, ante omnes. They came before all. A secret group approached, historians and ex-agents calling themselves the Council of Shadows. They claimed the U.S. government had long known of underground cities. Leah said, "Truth doesn't hide in the dark. People do." In Oklahoma, seismic drones found a perfect underground chamber, circular, humming. Inside were massive columns etched with Assyria's symbols. Leah narrated, "If these chambers still pulse with power, then the builders spoke with the planet itself." Repeating glyphs translated to, "We are the first memory." LeBlanc asked, were they warning us or inviting us to continue what they began?
Grave and labor-intensive. The overall mood must be serious, emphasizing the intensity of the physical and mental labor carried out in the quiet hours of the night. Meditative, focus-driven. The repetitive action of sorting mail and the rhythmic movement of the train should be treated as a form of deep concentration or meditation. This creates a powerful contrast between the external motion and the internal stillness of focus. Grounded romanticism. Acknowledge the historical significance of the RPO and the profound human connection of written mail, but do not gloss over the harsh, sooty, dangerous, and demanding realities of the job. By 2029, 5 dig sites were confirmed, all connected. But every attempt to excavate ended with government shutdowns. People called it the Archaeology blackout. In December 2029, during a live feed, Dr. LeBlanc vanished. His final words, "It's not a ruin, it's a mechanism." Then silence. Minutes later, a low hum spread across 3 states. Leah hid and continued her recordings. The Earth is speaking again, the same frequency as Asera, the planet's heartbeat. She believed the shadow civilizations never died. They went beneath, waiting for resonance to return. DNA from Acera's remains shocked scientists, part native, part Eurasian. Thousands of years of contact erased from history. History isn't written by victors, it's written by survivors of silence. In 2030, magnetic storms and glowing lights swept across the Midwest. The ancient network reactivated, the rebirth of the first builders. AI translation of glyphs revealed the final message. When the earth hums again, we shall rise in memory, not in flesh. Today, officials still deny everything. But under every city, the hum continues, steady, alive. Leah's documentary never aired, but fragments appear online as the Whispers Network. And if you listen closely, under the noise of the world, you might still hear it, a pulse, ancient and patient, whispering.